All right, good morning. We are officially starting our Transform Westside Summit. Welcome. I'm John Ahmann, the lead the Westside Future Fund, and very happy to host you here this morning. We have a very exciting program ahead of us. We also want to note out, every month there's a national month is designated. Last month was National Women's Month, I think. This month is National Volunteer Month.
Yes.
So we very grateful. Our Raquel, who heads up our volunteer program at the Westside Future Fund, we do a lot of volunteer activities along with other organizations here in the West Side. Very happy to be here with my co-host.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ebony Ford. I'm a proud resident of English Avenue here on the West Side, and even prouder parent of my son, Jeremiah, who attends Hollis, and I'm all about the West Side, best side. Very good to see y'all this morning. And as John mentioned, this month is National Volunteer Month. And April, again, National Volunteer Month, it is a time to celebrate the power of people coming together to make a difference. Here at Westside Future Fund, we believe in doing with the community, not to the community, amen. And volunteers are essential to living that value. We're very grateful for the many individuals, corporate partners, and community groups who roll up their sleeves to support our work here on the West Side, whether it's painting houses, planting gardens, or serving at events. Every act of service helps us move closer to the beloved community that Dr. King envisioned. So if you have not already, we invite you to please get involved. Visit our website or connect with our team to learn more about upcoming volunteer opportunities. Thank you to all who serve. Your time, energy, and heart truly make a lasting impact. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ebony. Always like to welcome any first-time visitors. So even if you're an official invited guest, if you're a first-time visitor,
anybody? Please
raise your hands. We can welcome all our first-time visitors. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't think I noted in the beginning, for our first-time visitors, we are live streaming on social media, so our Facebook and YouTube, and the entire program is available immediately following the Transform Westside Summits. So our program this morning, especially for folks that are here for the first time, we have the same format, and we will, in just a moment, one of our first-time visitors, Mandy Hazelton, Visual Information Specialist from the Martin Luther King National Historic Park, will give our devotion, so thank you. We always begin our program grounded in devotion. Then we'll move into self-introductions, which is a really important part of our community building of our program. So everyone will take the time to self-introduce. And then we're going to have an awesome discussion today, honoring the past, building the future, 234 Sunset Avenue in the spirit of legacy. And I'm very excited that Reggie Chapple, the Superintendent of the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park District, will be here to talk about all the great work of the National Park District with the King Birth Home, Ebenezer, the family home in Vine City, such an amazing history. We're grateful as a city. Think about, one of our national holidays is named after Atlanta native son. So really excited about that conversation this morning, and we'll have time for question answer from the audience with the superintendent. And as always, we'll be done by 9 o'clock. So thank you.
And thank you, John. As a West Side resident myself, again, it means so much to see the restoration of places like 234 Sunset Avenue, not just as historic landmarks, but as living reminders of the legacy that we're all working to carry forward. We're excited to hear from Mr. Chapple and to learn more about the park's work and honoring the past while building a stronger future for our community here on the West Side.
Thank you. We want to encourage you to subscribe, if you haven't already, to our monthly newsletter. And as always, if you have things you want us to publicize as part of our newsletter, we want to do that. We hope you've seen soon an event we have happening later this month right next to 234 Sunset in Vine City is 220 Sunset. The Westside Future Fund was fortunate enough to acquire 220 Sunset, which is the Jackson family. Maynard Jackson's mother and father built that home to live in, and Maynard lived there till he was a young teenager. But we'll be doing a ribbon cutting on April 28th, and you can read, that'll be more about that in our newsletter. So please subscribe to our newsletter. And we also want to make sure folks are aware of, as part of our program at the Westside Future Fund, we have other partners. I saw Leonard was here earlier doing great work in the community with housing, but we want to talk about homes that we have available for sale. So As part of our, and we actually have as our vision statement, how do we develop a community Dr. King would be proud to call home? And in building that community, we want to bring in and offer affordable homes. We offer down payment assistance to help people go into homes. And we like to prioritize homes for people that have a live, work, learn connection to the neighborhoods. So if you're from English Avenue, Vine City, UC Asheville neighborhoods, if you went to Booker T. Washington High School or attend one of the local historically black colleges, if you work in the neighborhoods, you qualify against our community retention guidelines. Tamika and Nicole are here from our Home on the West Side program. So we love to have, we've helped over 50 homeowners, I think, or so go into homes now. But these are homes that are all available for sale right now. And we would love, if you're interested, to follow up with Tamika or Nicole and let us know so we can help. Over the next 2 years, we plan to, we hope to sell approximately 60 homes, primarily on English Avenue, some in Vine City. So please, if you don't know, and if you know anyone you think would be interested, please let us know. And again, a real special part of our program is we typically, thanks to our philanthropic support, have been able to offer about $50,000 per home in down payment assistance.
That's amazing.
So we help make those homes affordable after people qualify for a mortgage through our down payment assistance program.
That's amazing. And 50 homeowners who may not have otherwise had a path to home ownership, especially
right.
down in the city, as expensive as it's getting. So that's awesome work. Thank you for the update. We also invite you guys to get engaged with us via Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook. And if you are watching the summit right now on YouTube, please make sure that you do subscribe to our channel. For those of you who are here in person, I hope you're enjoying your free Chick-fil-A breakfast. Amen. Okay, appreciate that. And we also want to make sure that you guys do get your raffle tickets for our drawing later on in the summit for the Home Depot and Goodwill raffle drawing, okay? And stick around to the end and we will announce the winners. It has now at the point for our devotion portion of our summit. It's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside revitalization effort. The time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. I am excited to introduce someone who has played a key role in shaping how we see and engage with one of the most iconic landmarks in our city. Mandy Hazelton is the Visual Information Specialist at the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park, where she leads digital communications, branding, and visual storytelling, both online and on site. That's a big job. She brings more than a decade of experience in multimedia production, strategic communications, and public affairs. And she is also, get this, a proud U.S. Air Force veteran. Mandy, how many lives have you lived? And thank you for your service. Mandy's passion for creativity and community shines through in everything that she does. And we are so glad to have you here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mandy Hazelton.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Devotion. This is an honor to be able to speak with you this morning. I'm so excited about the work that you're doing, and being a part of that is very important. So Nehemiah, right? I just think it's awesome that Nehemiah is the foundation of what you do here. Reading into the book of Nehemiah and looking at Dr. King's life, I see some parallel characteristics and parallel actions. And I want to talk to you about those today. I read that Nehemiah basically was rooted in prayer. His journey started with prayer. Right? So the first thing he did was he prayed, and he went to the Lord and asked the Lord for help. Dr. Martin Luther King, being a minister in the community, growing up in the Baptist church, prayer was also the root and the foundation of his work. And so they had this parallel in common. But what does prayer really do? Prayer has us formulate our thoughts, speak them out loud, mindful meditation. So whether you're spiritual or not, you can still incorporate these things in your life. Another parallel was moral courage. So they both had moral courage. Nehemiah had the courage to go to the king and say, hey, I need help. I want to build this wall. I want to make sure that my ancestors' dream is still shown. And he did that. Dr. King had moral courage to go out and say, hey, what I see that is happening in the community is not right. I want to do something about it. And they also had the parallel of community action, bringing the community together, right? Dr. King, he got the SCLC, founded the SCLC. Nehemiah went to all the leaders in the community and said, hey, help me build this wall. And so today I want to start where Nehemiah and Dr. King both started. And I want you to take a moment with me, and we're going to breathe and we're going to meditate. So go ahead and close your eyes. We have a few minutes here, and I know, just try not to fall asleep. We all know how to breathe, right? Okay, yeah, it's very simple. Us medics, we say, hey, breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. So when you breathe in, I want you to really think about one of Dr. King's quotes. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Faith. Okay? So when you breathe in courage. Hold it. Breathe out, fear. Exhale, fear. Okay, we're going to breathe in again. Breathe in, purpose. Exhale, distraction. Breathe in, unity. Breathe out, exhale, isolation. So as we are walking as leaders in the community, take a few moments, put down the cell phones, turn off the TV, take some silent time to yourself, and take some deep breaths. Center yourself, relax. You can do this in the spirit of Nehemiah and Dr. Martin Luther King. Have the faith to continue on. So one more time, we're going to breathe in, courage. Exhale, breathe out, fear. Breathe in, purpose. Breathe out, distraction. Breathe in, unity. And exhale, breathe out, isolation. I want to thank you for having me here today. Very excited about everything that you're doing. Be blessed. Have a great day. Thank you.
Mandy, thank you for leading us in our devotional message. And I appreciated reminding us in our story of Nehemiah. And when I studied it too, he talks about the importance of prayer and what does that really mean, especially in challenging times. And I always love the story with Dr. King when he was, in Alabama and in enormous fear and couldn't sleep, and he got up to have a cup of coffee and pray, and it was then he felt, the presence of God to give him the courage to go on and change the face of the country. So thank you for leading us in that this morning and in the meditation. So let's thank her again for doing that this morning. So we're now moving on to the next part of our program where we do the introductions. So I'm going to move around with the microphone, Ebony will move around with the microphone. And when we, as part of the self-introductions, back to the goal is to just to start to get to know each other. So when we do the introductions, we'd like you to stand up, hold the microphone close to your mouth so folks can hear you. We'd love for you to say your name, maybe where you live or where you work. And then we want you to just stop right there. And not that what you might want to say next is not really awesome. It's just that we're trying to keep to our program. And so, Ebony will move around. And for those that are here for the first time, we found this to be a real gift of the Transform Westside Summits. So you may have an opportunity to hear someone that could help you kind of advance your prayerful journey. You may hear someone you think, hey, that person I could offer some service to that person. So we really encourage that connectivity that comes out of taking the time to do these self-introductions. So with that, I'll let Ebony, thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So I'll start right here. Maybe there's something about you guys that haven't said yet. So if you want to go.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm back, guys. So, Mandy Hazelton, of course, I'm with the Park Service. Let's see. Oh, I think I'm quiet after that. You say a pet? Oh, yeah. So I'm married. My husband both my husband and I, we served 20 years in the United States Air Force as medics. I have 2 daughters, and I have 2 pets. I have a husky and a poodle. I'm also a sustainable fashion enthusiast. So, yes, big thrifter, turnover, and I've learned how to sew. So now I reconstruct and, do all types of things throughout the community.
That's good. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, it's my turn?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay. No problem. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Hi, I'm Alan Bell. I've enjoyed coming to Westside Future Fund for the last 8 years, and I've lived my whole life within 6 miles of here.
Hi, good morning. Neil Shorthouse with Partners in Change. In 52 conversations, you can change your life.
This way today. Good morning. My name is Bob Dickinson. I'm the Executive Director of Steam Sports Foundation. We provide scholarships in motorsports and automotive engineering to underrepresented demographics. And yes, we are still big believers in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Good morning. Michael Davis, Deputy Executive Director, Atlanta Beltline Partnership, and we're located in the same building that John is in the Westside Future Fund on the West Side.
Happy Friday, I'm Tasha Ford. Hey, Myrna. I am a proud alum of Clark Atlanta University. I first stepped foot on campus over 30 years ago and never left. I'm a community engagement consultant, and I'm happy to be here.
Good morning. I should say happy Good Friday. One of my favorite days because I like to get out and plant flowers in my garden. So I'm just looking forward to being in my yard all day today. Again, I'm Marvin Bussett with Teens at Work.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany Green Abdullah. I'm the Director of Development for the Inner City Muslim Action Network, Ahmann, Atlanta. We focus on health, wellness, and healing, and we have 3 properties on Martin Luther King.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Antonio Henson. I'm a community lender with Renaissance Bank.
Hey, I'm Sean. I am Senior Director of Corporate Engagement for Morehouse School of Medicine and proud English Avenue resident. I'm also with the Atlanta Roller Derby.
Good morning. My name is Troy Davis, and I work for Atlanta Tech.
Good morning, Charles Merriweather, Goodwill, where we put people to work.
Good morning, Ron Smith. I am with the Soul Symphony, and we are looking to do a Juneteenth celebration at Rodney Cook Park June 19th, so I'd love to talk to everybody about that. Okay.
Morning, I'm Mindy Cow. I'm a project manager with the City of Atlanta's Department of City Planning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Marcel Harley. I am the CEO of FitCF LLC. We are a healthy lifestyle business, and we basically work with people to live healthier lifestyles. This is Amina.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edith. I am the mother of Amina. This is my fiance, Marcel. And we live here, like 10 minutes down the road. I do speaking engagements. I wrote a children's book, so I'm now an author officially, and entrepreneur. So I'm actually in the process of figuring out what life is gonna look like with my daughter now, so I can find an opportunity that will allow me to stay longer with her. But anyway, I'm happy to be here.
Good morning. I am Joanna Madison, and I am an English Avenue resident.
Good morning. My name is Greg Madison. I'm a resident of English Avenue, founder and author of Standing in Awe Publications, 7 years now of publishing biblical solutions for addictions.
Real quick, for the people who've been coming here for a while, y'all see English Avenue kind of catching up with Vine City residents, right? Y'all notice that? We coming through. Okay, excuse me.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Bellows. I'm a longtime resident of the English Avenue, and I'm gonna welcome all my neighbors who wants to move in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angira Susi with Redefine Ed Atlanta, a education-focused nonprofit.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ebony Charlie. I, too, am a Clark Atlanta University alum, and I will be a future resident of the West Side. I'm claiming it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Blue. This is my first event, so this is very welcoming. But I'm born and raised in Atlanta. I know we don't get that often, but I own an education consulting firm. We focus on entrepreneurial and small business development programming.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rue Gunter. I'm with Oaks ATL Community Development, and I will add another one to the English Avenue resident count.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Colleen Ayala. I'm a board member with Westside Future Fund and an architect with Perkins & Will.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Myrna Clayton. I am executive founder and executive director for Showability. We support and advocate for the largest minority population in the country. 26% of the U.S. population have a disability, and that's those that claim a disability. We are the ones who facilitate those in the metro Atlanta area in visibility and relatability for accessibility. We put folks on stage and in film. And so we very much so want to keep that conversation of the disability community in the conversation of DEIA.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheldon Hill. I'm with Foreclosure International. We look to stop foreclosures and evictions, put people in homes, and keep people in their homes.
Good morning, my name is Solon Goiba, and I'm a founder of a Quantum Do, which means the way of energy, and we help people that are plateau and spiraling get back to their norm and perform better. I'm grateful to be here. You said it, welcome, it's very welcoming.
I'm Maria Supporta, and I am editor, owner of Supporta Report, CEO of Atlanta Way 2.0, and I had to come here to meet the new Judy Forte. So thank you. Yep, we're gonna go here.
Okay. Let me untangle my dress. Hi, I'm Keitra Bates, and I'm the founder of Marty's Shared Kitchen and now Marty's Cafe, and which is in College Park. Sorry. We're hoping to come back to the West Side with that. But I am starting to share that I'm autistic because there are not a lot of us out here doing, well, there are a lot of us doing things, but you don't know that it's us. So it's us.
Good morning, good morning. It's nice, we got a lot of time, so they're not rushing us because there's not a lot of people. So, my name is Matthew Coleman. I'm the CEO of VI Capital Lending Group. We provide private hard money for investors. and make it easy and really guide them through that. I'm also the CEO of Vision Group RE Development. We do new construction development. And finally, one of the things I'm really proud of, I'm the committee chair for the Real Estate and Professional Service Committee of the Atlanta Black Chambers, where we are, just spreading the word that we are out here. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Good morning, everyone. This is also my first meeting as well, so thank you for welcoming me. My name is Charles Young, and I am the founder of the Sports Leadership Project. I've been in Atlanta a little less than a year now, and we are currently looking for a home for our business and to build our network here in the Atlanta market. And we introduce kids to the business of sports and careers in sports as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, buenos dias. My name is Ronnie Delgado. I'm with Global Paint for Charity.
Sharika Tannell with Global Paint for Charity.
Hello, I'm Sharon Silvermintz. This is my first time being here. I also live on the West Side almost 20 years, and I'm representing with Susan Banner, the CEO of MVK, Most Valuable Kids, since 2017. Under her leadership, an organization that she started, we have given away over 60,000 tickets to sporting and cultural events to many people on the West Side. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Susan Banner. I've been coming to these meetings also for 8 years. So we collect tickets, sporting and cultural event tickets from anyone who has them. And then we give them to nonprofits and schools, many, many on the West Side. And so last week, the parade was at the Fox Theater, and families, multi-generational families came to see parades. So we also brought books here today. So we have a car full of books. If you want to get books for your all the way early childhood through high school books to pass out over the weekend.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Bush, and I'm a resident of the Booker T. Washington neighborhood. And Booker T. and I graduated from the same university, Hampton University. Yes. Although I have 12 relatives who finished the AU Center schools.
Good morning. I'm Leela Gill with the Empire Board of Realtors and also NID Housing Counseling Agency.
Good morning. My name is Archie Emerson. I am the broker agent for Dedicated Realty Incorporated. I'm also the broker agent to help move the property for the Westside Future Fund. I'm also the owner of NID. We are a HUD housing counseling agency that help people stay in properties, do not lose them, whatever means necessary. And I am the past president for the Empire Board of Realtors, the current incoming president for the VA Rep Board here in Atlanta as well.
Good morning, family. I'm Tillman Ward, President of Community Resources of Atlanta, based in historic Vine City. And I was asked to be reminded that since this is Good Friday, be reminded that our farmers and our gardeners are our first responders. And also, without agriculture, we'd have no culture. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Christy Beam. I am here with the Academy for Innovation in Medicine, AIM. We are a school, 612 school that supports students from middle school to med school in collaboration with Grady Health System and Morehouse School of Medicine. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Sosnovsky. I live in Midtown, and I work at Boston Consulting Group.
Bob Butler, Coa Bank of Real Estate.
Good morning. My name is Kiana Collins. I am an Atlanta native and alumni of Clark Atlanta. I'm the founder of Georgia Premier Homes, and we specialize in connecting people with communities through property management.
Hello, my name is Ebony. I'm from Atlanta. I grew up at Antioch Baptist Church North, and I live in Vine City, and I have 2 kids at Hollis.
You forget anybody? Okay, give yourselves a hand.
Yeah, thank you. Didn't get a chance to introduce, but I want to acknowledge the WFF Westside Future Fund team sitting on one side, so thank you team here this morning. And then our very always reliable, team that helps with our Transform Westside Summits. We always appreciate the crew doing great work. So thank you, and I'm always, every time I listen to the introduction, just kind of amazed by the diversity, the breadth of folks that are in this room together, and you think about, connections in ways that are maybe unusual, but then become enormously impactful. So hopefully coming out of those self-introductions, take the time to follow up on people you may have, thought how you could be helpful, or, vice versa. But now I'm excited, we're moving to the next part of our program. And I am, really excited about our program this morning with Superintendent Reggie Chapple, the new superintendent of the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park. And when I was back to 1994 or so, I was working for the Atlanta Olympic Committee. And at the time, the 1996 Olympics was the time, at that point in time, President Clinton would be running for re-election. So it was both the Olympics in America, but also they had all the incentives for things to go great. And one of the things that was not great, and I remember learning this back in 1994, is that the King Historic District was the second most visited one in the country. And I remember, wow, the second most visited in the country, but didn't look at all like it should have looked. And at that time, and I know there's been many things since then, but what always appreciating that how globally famous Dr. King is. So we're very excited that you're going to be here to talk more about what's happening at the site. You have over 35 acres of historic federal land, including the birth home, Dr. King's birth home, the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, and the King family home right here in Vine City. And he brings an awesome background from the National Philanthropic Strategy for the National Park Service to executive roles in community development and civil rights organizations, including the SCLC in Los Angeles. And with deep roots in public service and preservation, Reginald is helping to steward Dr. King's legacy while advancing a vision for what the park can mean to future generations. So as he comes on up for a conversation, let's give him a welcome. Thank you. All right, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. So once again, we really appreciate you being here. And just to start, just for folks to know you a little bit better, why don't you share a little bit about your background, what brought you to where you are, but just to help folks know our superintendent better.
Sure. Thank you, John. I appreciate you inviting me to be here today. I feel like I am in a room with my tribe, and so I don't feel nervous. I feel like I'm right at home, right? A little background about myself. I am not from Atlanta. I am so sorry. Or I should say it right. I'm not from Atlanta. I am from Los Angeles, and so my parents are both from the South, though. So my mom's from South Carolina, dad's from Arkansas, and so they're part of that westward migration. And if you don't know Los Angeles, it is a southern town. So when you get there, not only is there soul food, but there are Black churches that carry on the tradition of the South. So my minister was a Mississippi fire and brimstone preacher in Watts. And so at East El Segundo in town, if you know where that is at all. So down the street from Sanford and Son, if you can imagine what it looks like. And so that's me, right? So I am a Southern influenced person from Los Angeles who finds his way to Washington, D.C. after all those things that John talked about that I did career-wise. I wanted to always make a difference in the community in which I lived, That is what was instilled in me by not only my parents, but my grandmother. She was an Eastern Star in South Carolina. And so my grandfather was a Mason. And so all of these things are real to me. And so it's in the lifeblood of what it is that I have become. And so I'm standing on all those shoulders, including Judy Forte's in the National Park Service. And so that is me, just a little bit of background and a little factoid about myself that I didn't share when the microphone went around. I love farmers markets because my grandparents owned their own farm on my mother's side. And so they inherited the big home, the big house, from the plantation owners. And so when I first visited, the first things I can remember are snake skins under the house because the snakes had shed their skin, and not understanding what that was as an urban guy. But then I understood what watermelon patches looked like, pecan trees, pears, strawberry patches. I still love blueberries and raspberries and blackberries because of my visits to the South. And so I look for those wherever I go. Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. And we know that you oversee, both East and West, and we first want to talk a little bit about the West. So 234 Sunset Avenue, and I think Maria Supporta, I think read some of your stories. You played as a child, right, with Bernice King, and when she was, Yolanda, sorry, thank you, at 234 Sunset. I saw Tillman here earlier. I know, lives across. So we were very excited when the King Center sold to the National Park Service 234 Sunset, and I know y'all have exciting plans to bring it online. So we would love just to hear more about the vision for that, the timeline for that, but whatever you would love to share with the audience here this morning.
Sure, thanks for that. And Brother Tillman, we appreciate you because every time we come over there, you come outside and make sure that we are accountable to the legacy of Dr. King. So we appreciate you. So the home was purchased by the National Park Service through the National Park Foundation during the 2016 centennial. So we got a donation from Robert Smith. So if you all know Robert Smith at all, he's often on the cover of Money Magazine, Fortune. He is a black billionaire. On the list, sometimes he trades between Oprah and himself as the kind of richest African-American in the nation. He had no idea that he could actually give to national parks or to the federal government to forward African-American legacies and communities. He had been giving to universities, so you'll see his name on a lot of university buildings. And so when he figured out that he could do that, he was all in. And the first place that the donation was given was for the National Park Foundation to purchase the birth home and then the family home from Bernice King and the King family, I guess you can say their foundation. And so we got a chance to actually then inherit that. We had to go through a boundary adjustment. So if you know the federal government, that takes a minute to go back through Congress to expand our boundaries to actually include that. But this is what it's going to do. It is going to give us an opportunity to interpret the family life of Dr. King. And that is something that you don't often see, right? And so that is what I am excited about. You don't get a chance to see him sitting around the dinner table, how he talked with his kids. It gave his kids an opportunity to actually speak about their day. What was it like for Mrs. King to actually be there and to hold the family together? Do you know that she founded the King Center in the basement? If you were on the block, you understand that in the basement was also the place where all the kids from the neighborhood gathered, where she actually had them there for anything from celebrating stuff to from trophies to actually having a pool table down there. All this stuff that gives us an opportunity to really situate not only Dr. King, but Mrs. King's legacy as well. Because the King that we understand today is because of Coretta Scott King and her work as a civil rights advocate post-1968. Because of her, we have this park, Martin Luther King National Historical Park, and Preservation District. We also have Historic District Development Corporation, HDDC, the nonprofit that she started. And so, and they just opened a new housing development on Auburn Avenue, the front porch, 2 days ago. And so these legacies are continuing, and so that gives us this opportunity to continue to talk about those.
And I know there's always various, but are you prepared to talk about a timeline and when you think 234?
See, I tried to avoid it, right? I thought I would get away from that. So timeline, I will talk about some specific stuff that you all can participate in. In the next 3 months or so, you'll be able to come out for another public comment period where you can talk to us about what you'd like to see in the house. And so this is a part of the NEPA process. If you are developers, you understand what NEPA is. So it's the National Environmental Protection Act. We have to go through civic engagement, so that is talking to communities and then asking them if there are going to be any adverse effects of having this property in their neighborhood. And so we'll go through that process, so you'll get a chance to see drawings. I was telling John and John earlier that we are in the process of having DOGE to approve our next phase of architectural design drawings and the contractor for that. And so we are this close. We've just answered another series of questions there. And so that's another $571,000 of your tax dollars that will go into the design phase. And so what do I mean by that? That means that we'll sit with you, take what you tell us in the public comment period and incorporate that into the drawings. And so do you think we should keep the car in the garage, and understanding that the reason that that garage has a garage door opener is because of Mrs. King when she saw what happened to the Evers family in Mississippi, that she, in the carport, she no longer wanted a carport, and she wanted actually to have a garage door opener and closer, so that when Dr. King came in, he could pull into the garage, and then the garage door would close actually behind him. And so how do we interpret those types of moments? And so that's the next phase that we're in. And by, I would say, and don't laugh at me, but by 2029, because the government moves slow, when King is 100 years old, we expect to have the building fully operational, with exhibits on the inside and with the multimedia technology on the inside as well for you to enjoy.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you've got great experience, back to your bio, leading partnerships. You've been involved in, philanthropy at a national level. And you heard in the introductions a lot of, great organizations, both government organizations as well as community-based organizations. And as you think about that activation vision for 234, how do you see the role of partnerships in advancing what y'all want to accomplish?
So you're going to get me back on my normal stump speech when I was in charge of national partnerships and philanthropy for the National Park Service. And so here it goes. So the National Park Service was founded on partnerships. Partnerships that go back to, say, the railroads or hotels or other financiers actually participating in that. And so who are those financiers? You can see them all around. So Robert Smith isn't the first billionaire or multimillionaire. We had the Rockefeller family that actually participated with us, or others that have invested over time. So not only do we have individual donors, but we have corporate America that has participated. And then we have in the Park Service what are called friends groups. And these are nonprofits that raise money on behalf of the National Park Service. And you can either be a temporary friends group or you can be a long-term friends group with the Park Service. And I worked on those policies so that we could actually have that to happen. And so folks like the Westside Futures Fund is a group that we would look at for a short-term partnership agreement so that we could actually work together.
We'd like to be long-term.
Well, let's talk about that. We can talk about that. So the philanthropic partnership agreement is the way in which that actually happens. But we can't do anything alone. The tax dollars are not enough. And so the National Park Service has had about a $3 billion budget for the last 10 years. And so when you begin to adjust for inflation, you begin to get a sense of what that looks like. And so sometimes we have to pick and choose where we actually focus our dollars. But we've been lucky in having over $600 million from private support to pour in And then we have another $100 million from our National Park Foundation. And so partnerships are important. And they're important to me personally because this is where I come from. In Los Angeles, I did a lot of work around historic buildings and so worked on the Ralph Bunche home, if you all know Dr. Ralph Bunche, if you're looking at photos of Dr. King and Mrs. King marching, you often see this tall, light-skinned African-American man who is first African-American to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, his house in Los Angeles is one that I worked on. And so being able to not only have community partnerships, but to have these kinds of family partnerships, which is why Bernice King is so important to me. Or as you all probably know, or if you know Bernice King, her nickname is Bunny. Don't start calling her Bunny everywhere. Or Yolanda Yogi. And so all of these pieces are important in terms of partnerships for the park. We can't move forward without having these partnerships in place. And we don't want to move forward when we're in a neighborhood where we are not working with the local residents, working with the local community organizations to make sure that we are in lockstep with the vision that is there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And our next question, I think I've heard it from Reverend Bernice King when she was doing the devotion for the beloved benefit. And she shared in that when Dr. King Coretta bought 234 Sunset in Vine City, at that point in time, he'd won the Nobel, globally famous, could have lived in, well, any city probably, and any neighborhood. And there were more affluent neighborhoods than Vine City at the time in our city that he could have lived in, but he chose, in her own words, I remember it to buy there to make a point about challenging conditions that, were still existing in Vine City. And I know you can look from the front porch of 234 Sunset and look to the west and see some of those challenging conditions. So as you think about your, stewarding the 35 acres of federally owned land and all the great work you do on that, how do you also think about the connectivity with present day community needs? I appreciate that's not y'all's necessarily your responsibility, but as you think about, how to both honor that legacy and think about addressing community needs in the neighborhoods.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the political answer, right? So the legislation for Martin Luther King National Historical Park and Preservation District actually is about preserving the places where Dr. King was born, lived, worked, worshiped, and is buried. And then in addition, if you look on the second paragraph, it talks about a preservation district and including a preservation district in that. And so our mission is that of the Westside Futures Fund. It is similar. And so we are always going to be about local neighborhood stuffs. Mrs. King, as I said, created HDDC, and at the same time of actually advocating for the park. And so we come out of the advocacy of the King family. And so we are never going to leave the neighborhood. And so if you come on Auburn Avenue, where the park is located, mainly where the visitor center is located, we own about maybe 15 buildings that are right there on Auburn Avenue. We have 24, I think at this point in time, residents that live with us. So I'm a property manager, I'm an asset manager, I'm a housing manager, and that does not happen in the Park Service. We're the only Park Service unit that has leased housing that is not for employees. And our employees get confused about that because they call me and they're like, hey, I'm starting to work in the Park Service in Atlanta. I'd like to actually get my employee housing. I was like, yeah, we don't have that. Too bad. We have it for local residents. And so it's very different. So we're a different kind of place. And so I see, for me, people, place, and culture are my mission statement. And as long as I am in the position of being the superintendent, we will always actually gravitate towards making sure that we privilege people right where they are, place and preserving all of the buildings and the kind of cultural moments and the culture that was there or that is developing at the same time. Because we know neighborhoods change, but that doesn't mean that we can't layer history on top of places and honor each one that is there.
Thank you. And you have my next question kind of falls after that. When I started more work with the Westside Future Fund, one of the first things that we worked on was a land use framework plan. And at the time, the community was like, not another plan, but one of the things we really wanted to pledge along with others, we'd work on making sure the plan got implemented. But through the course of that, a consistent refrain from the community and honoring the legacy of Dr. King and so many others was that frame of the beloved community.
Indeed.
And I remember one essay that was written by a longtime Vine City resident that said, the beloved community is the alternative to gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
And it spoke deeply to me because as an Atlanta resident, but I grew up on the east side and was moving to the west side and wondered, would I be welcomed, and how would that, but what I loved about the essay was what was the foundation of the beloved community is what is in your heart. Not necessarily how you look, how much money you earn, but how you essential to the vision. So as you think about, and I think you spoke to some of it, but think about his vision of that beloved community. How do you think about that and how the National Park Service will kind of promote that and curate that as part of activating the 234 Sunset? Not that that's not a hard question. But
yeah, there's a lot in there, man, to unpack. So I'm going to start with a quote from Dr. King. And you all may be familiar with this, and I may not be verbatim with it, but you will understand it. So everyone can be great because everyone can serve. It doesn't take a college degree, your verb and your whatever. The subject does not have to agree. All you need is a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. And so for me, that is at the essence of this beloved community. It starts at the individual level and the actions that you are going to take. You can't be a free rider or someone that is just benefiting from the work of other folks. And I don't hear that from anyone in this room. You have to be activated. And so we're all activists, whether we want to be or not, whether it's us taking care of our kids and placing them in a school to make sure that they get the right education, or if it's that we are helping people with their loans or preserving their ability to actually thrive in communities, whether it's about outdoor recreation and actually having people in sports because it teaches them a different discipline, or if it's about just education and community engagement. And that's all the stuff that I hear going on around the room. And so one part is for beloved community is to just make sure that we understand that we're all working together. So that's one. Second, for 234 Sunset, we want it to be a beacon to actually say to people, this is what is possible, right? When you make a decision to actually live out what it is that you believe. And so that is what Dr. King and Mrs. King did when they bought the home circa 1964. And so let's just situate what was happening for them at that point in time. He is just coming back from Washington, D.C. with the March on Washington for jobs and justice at that point in time. And so there is this groundswell that is happening. And so he uses his fame to actually locate in Vine City. But why is he there? It's not because it's a foreign neighborhood to him. He goes to high school in the community. He goes to Morehouse in the community. And so he's making these connections and actually saying, hey, here's the next level for people of African descent or for people who are in my income level or people who are like me. I don't think Dr. King was about just Black people, and we can see this now because the largest beneficiaries of the civil rights movement are white women, right? And so it was this larger vision, and he dies actually putting together the Poor People's Campaign. And so when we begin to understand what was deep-rooted inside of him, we understand why he and Mrs. King would actually decide to locate in Vine City. And over time, we are engaged in these same kinds of economic level struggles, access struggles, as well as the G word, gentrification. I was telling John when he first called me on the phone, and he was about this big in the screen, right? So I had no idea that he was this tall. I thought he was this tall. And I was like, what is he calling me about? Because I got introduced to him through the Trust for Public Land, another nonprofit that works with the National Park Service. And he was like, he's a good guy. George Duesenberry was saying, he's a good guy, you can trust him. And I was like, as soon as he said that, all of my spidey sense started tingling, right? Oh my God, what's gonna happen here? I said, this is gonna be one of those folks that is not who he actually is, so that it's going to want to talk to me about, what are you doing in the neighborhood? And we're gonna take over the properties and we're gonna make sure. And I got something totally different. And so it is refreshing to see that the legacy of Dr. King allows a space, gives permission for a group like the Westside Futures Fund to exist and to create this kind of tribe that I talked about, where we can all work together, and it's a safe space for us to give the gifts that we want to give. And so we want the house to represent that, because that is what Mrs. King did post-1968. She has about 4 years with the family together in the house, and after that, she says, hey, this is going to be a beacon for the world. And so if you see our website, you see Mandy has put on the website Jackie Kennedy and Mrs. King, who both lose their husbands. And Mrs. Kennedy actually comes to Vine City to visit Coretta Scott King in her home and console her. This is incredible, what Vine City has become to the world. And so we not only want to privilege Auburn Avenue, but we want to talk about Vine City and English Avenue and what that means for the city of Atlanta and for residents who have located there.
Well, that was an amazing answer. Wow, thank you. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things I really appreciate your frame of, we can all be great because we can all serve, and reminding us that we all possess gifts and vocations, and we spend a lot of our time thinking about how that can obviously serve ourselves and our family, but then thinking about serving the other. You know, Dr. King talked a lot about, so I appreciate that was a really thoughtful answer, and to hear how you're thinking about that activation with all that thematic richness. And I know part of it, and I know part of it, as y'all are so carefully thinking about bringing it online for an adaptive reuse, a project like 234 Sunset, that you want to be really meticulous about how you restore it. Mm-hmm. And so I think would be, great for folks to learn kind of the best practices that y'all use, because I know you're thinking about not just restoring the inside, but the outside as well. But the kind of best practices for folks to appreciate, this is not a typical home renovation.
No, it's not. So this is what we would call a house museum in the National Park Service, and so it is not a visitor center with exhibits. This is something that we've got to be very careful with, and so it is a home. So the first thing that we've got to do is to preserve what we call the envelope, and so I'm going to talk in some terms that some of you developers in the room will understand. So what that means is that right now, as we are in the holding phase, we are going to actually preserve the roof, make sure that there's not water intrusion, because we know the Vine City and English Avenue neighborhoods are at the lowest point in the city and are prone to flooding. And so our location on that block is probably the lowest point when you look at everything that is there. And so we're getting water intrusion right now. And so every once in a while, we'll get a little flood in there and we'll have to go secure it again because water wants to find its own level. But the landscaping is another component as well. And so when if you look at my org chart for the National Park Service, this particular park, you'll see that we have a resource manager, and folks don't often understand what that means. But Ash Phillips is in charge of both cultural resource management, so thinking about what that asset means in terms of a historic district, in terms of the compliance that it needs to have with NEPA and that kind of stuff, but she's also our natural resource manager. So she's thinking about invasive plants, native plants that were there, what's happening with the tree that's in the yard, as we learned from Bernice King, that there's always been on the hill that is there, this erosion that is happening. And so how can we shore up the tree? And so I haven't even gotten inside the house yet, right? I am still dealing with just the envelope itself. Then it is the disabled access. And so figuring out how to grade the driveway so that folks who need either wheelchair access or have different abilities to walk, that we regrade the driveway so that it's smoother and that you can actually have an access point to the basement where a lot of the activities for the King Center happened or the neighborhood happened. But then figuring out how do we get folks up and create a lift on the inside, the elevator on the inside, and maybe tearing out a part of the stairs so that we can create a lift on the inside so that everyone can access it. And then I start thinking about the exhibits. And so Bernice King, so we have everything from what was inside of the home when Mrs. King left in the 1980s or so. So what does that mean? We got Mrs. King's Tupperware. And so we've got Dr. King's T-shirts. We're still in the drawer. We've got Bernice King's five-year-old bathing suits. We've got Dexter King's instruments because he was a musician growing up as a child. And so we've got all the cultural ephemera and artifacts that we're gonna then put back into the house. And so this kind of process, or what it means, or what the building itself will become, is lots of different things. And we can't do this alone. One of the things that we don't have for the home right now is a visitor contact station. So when you go to a national park, so say you went to the Carter G. Woodson home in Northwest Washington, D.C., you'd go to his home, that's the founder of Black History Month, and then next door there'll be another building that has the bookstore, that actually has kind of exhibits, that kind of stuff, and it has an elevator to take you up to a second floor. So we need a visitor contact station. And so we've begun talking to the Westside Futures Fund about 240 Sunset right next door. I'm like, hey, and that first phone call when I realized that John was a tribe member, I started talking about 240 Sunset, and he was like, wait a minute, that might be something that we can help you with. And so we're looking at right now possibly having Westside Futures Fund create a partnership with us where they can transfer that home that they've purchased over to the Park Service as our visitor contact station. So all of a sudden you have this thriving way to have not only events, but you have a place for people to land once they get there, and a way for us to have staff that are there on site maybe 24 hours, so that we operate it as an actual thriving site like a normal house would be, rather than having a house museum that opens at 8, closes at 5, and becomes fallow for a neighborhood. But we want to make sure that we're addressing security issues as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And this is the part we want to give it a chance for questions from our audience. So as we set up the questions, and appreciating the times that we're in, please remember, he's not a political appointee. He's not an elected official. He's here to talk about the King Historic Site. Certainly, you know, what they're bringing to that. So let's just please kind of respect the zone of the questions, you know, for our superintendent. But Ebony, we'll
Uh-oh. Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your brain. It's unbelievable. I like the Carter Center. Like the Carter Center, this center is an advocacy center. And I think we at the Carter Center have eclipsed the physical space by the powerful message. So you have both the physical space and this powerful message. And John asked you this question earlier, but how do you promote as much advocacy for the mission and vision? Everybody can serve. How do you push that out? Because that's really going to make the center more significant.
Indeed.
The message is more important than the space.
Indeed. Thanks for that. I was attempting to, if you didn't hear me, to say that it's baked into our mission. It's baked into the legislation. And so there's no way for us to get around it. And so you never have to worry that we are not going to focus in on King. We're not going to focus in on the beloved community, that we're not going to focus in on the advocacy work of Mrs. King. They are directly tied together. You can see it in the physical geography of the King Center being directly across the street from the Parks Visitor Center. If you look in the original kind of land use planning documents for that site, you will see that between Boulevard and Jackson Street, it calls for this Auburn Avenue being shut down so that it becomes a walking community, and so that you can move between the crypts of Dr. King and Mrs. King over to the visitor center. And so geographically, we are making a statement. In our legislation, we're making a statement, but also through our partnerships, we're making a statement around what it is and that we intend to do in terms of advocating for the legacy of Dr. King and Mrs. King. So whether that's Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Dr. King's fraternity, who was just at the candlelight observance for the assassination of Dr. King on April 4th, and that we commemorate through April 9th, or is Ebenezer Baptist Church and Pastor Warnock and Reverend John Vaughn, and working with them because we have that as a part of our legacy as well. So where Dr. King learns to speak, where he learns to comport himself as a minister, where he learns his oratory skills and gets to refine them, but where we also get to tell the story of the pastoral dynasty that he comes from, and how do we link this kind of stuff together, of how do they come out of the Civil War, situate themselves in the 1920s on Auburn Avenue in this huge two-story fancy house that looks out onto these shotgun homes where there's this mixed income community that he naturally saw when he stood on his front porch. And you begin to understand how he saw the world as a child. It's how he saw the world later on in life. And so it's those kinds of pieces of the history that we want to tie together that actually get us to the advocacy work that he did, that Mrs. King did, and that we need to continue to uphold and to give people permission to do in conjunction with us. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Thank you. We may only have time for possibly one more question.
I know. If I'm taking too long to answer, I'm sorry.
Maria Saporta, and let me be one to welcome you to Atlanta.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear from you personally what it meant to come here in terms of your life trajectory, coming from Los Angeles and all that. What does Atlanta mean to you?
Mm-hmm. What does Atlanta mean to me? It means so many things to me historically. And so for what Atlanta has gone through post-Civil War, forming into a city itself, the African-American enclave developing along Auburn Avenue, the history of the highways bifurcating the community and separating it from downtown. I think it has an important space and place in being able to be emblematic of the changing times in the United States of America. So whether that's urban renewal, or it's the war on drugs, or it's whatever it is that we are going through currently, economically and historically. And so I think it is rich in being able to be a center place for history. It has two native sons that are pretty impactful. So President Carter and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so it can speak to this idea of peace, justice, equality in a way that no other place can. I think that's why the Olympics were here in '96. And so we have this ability to actually help the world be an antidote to some of the what we see maybe as violence or what we see as a not enoughness that begins to happen in the world. We have a blueprint that we can go back to and help the world. I'm not just talking about the United States, but we get international visitors at any point in time. You can hear French, Spanish, Igbo languages actually spoken in the park itself. And so we're this international magnet for folks wanting and hungering for how do we live together and thrive.
I think what I know people love, I think we have maybe one more question. Take time because I saw an anxious hand.
I'll be quick.
And honor that.
Thank you. Having my mother was the first research librarian at the King Center at Beckwith Street.
Yes, indeed.
And therefore an archivist. And so I grew up with the King kids, Bunny, Bernice, and spent summer parties and things like that in the home, as well as met fabulous people like Fannie Lou Hamer and others. And so I had the very pleasure of having that as my orientation. That being said, I'm very sensitive to that home. And so I appreciate your sensitivity to the home. I am concerned, and not getting political, but it has to be a conversation that we in the community are very interested in terms of the sustainability of this property, that property, with what's going on culturally in the country right now. And so I'm very concerned and interested in what's in place to sustain regardless of what happens federally, because I've been part of funding something that was planned for this year that got cut through the National Parks Association. And so being very familiar and concerned as a resident, as a long-term connectivity, very connected to the King family. So just very curious about what your plan is for sustainability given the current situation.
Those are great questions, and I appreciate that. You need to hold us accountable because we are using your tax dollars. This is your site. You own it. I don't own it. Mandy doesn't own it. The American people own this particular site. So let me start by saying, and this is about as far as I will go with the current moment that we're in politically, what we've been told by the Trump administration is that DEIA is not civil rights. So I'm going to say it again in another way. Civil rights is not DEIA. So in terms of that, this site is not going to disappear or be taken off of a list. We've also been told that we need to follow our enabling legislation, which is why I talked about it earlier. We are to interpret the places where Dr. King was born, lived, worked, worshiped, and is buried, and a whole preservation district that is a part of our legislation. Unless Congress goes back in and takes that away, it's not happening. And so we are pretty secure. We are, and so my other civil rights sites in the Park Service are going to hate me saying this, we're the #1 civil rights site in the National Park Service. So we are the beacon. And so folks are looking to us to figure out how do we do this with Merle Medgar Evers, with women's history sites in Washington, D.C. So that's one piece. Sustainability, we get teased at the park because they say we're an overuser of the National Park Foundation. And so the National Park Foundation was founded by Lady Bird Johnson to actually be the fundraiser for the National Park Service. And so right now, and I'm going to hold them accountable for this, Mandy, we have, before them, probably about $3 million in requests to actually fund activities in the park. And they've been one of our major donors. And so that's one of the sustainability strategies, is really doing this fundraising. And so you will see me probably stomping with different corporations pretty soon to say how do they get invested. Large individual donors because of my philanthropy and partnerships background. And so I think that's what makes me a little different about being the superintendent of this site. I am looking at sustainability, and so my staff is tired of me talking about what's going to be our strategic plan 1 year out, 3 years out, 5 years out. We are already behind in planning for fiscal years in the federal government. Next year is fiscal year 26. We should be talking about fiscal year 28. And so hopefully you hear in me that there is a business, a mindset, and in addition to cultural mindset and community-based mindset. But I think that's what it takes, is to really understand what that is. And I think all strategic planning is exactly what Mandy did at the very beginning of today, and having us to really focus, to really take a breath, and to be intentional and say out loud what it is that we want to have happen, where we're going to release fear and we're going to activate peace or prosperity. That's all we do in strategic plans. And if you read any CEO's book, they will tell you that as well. These are spiritual principles that are being applied in a business context. And so speaking out loud what we want to move into existence.
No, thank you. We've wound up our time, and I just want to say you've, and Mandy too, in terms of your deep service and your thoughtfulness of your answers. I know I'm inspired, and I'm also a lot of gratitude that leadership like y'all's is overseeing such an important National Historic Site. So let's please, thank them for their program this morning. And more to come. And Ebony and I are going to do a quick gift drawing, but we want to thank you for being here this morning. We want to do our Home Depot and gift card drawing very quickly as we conclude our summit.
Yes. Sorry, you guys, I know it's after 9 o'clock. Okay, orange ticket, winning number 419025. That is for Home Depot Foundation giveaway. 419025. All right, come up at the end, okay, and we'll get your picture. 025. All right, come on up afterwards, okay?
Petra.
All right. Goodwill of North Georgia, winning white ticket number is 3140457. 3140457. All right, come on up. Congrats. All right, you guys, appreciate you coming this morning. Happy Easter. Good weekend. Thank you.
All right, thank you.